Wait a minute!
You cried as you ran out from the apartment door, watching the delivery men leave.
We didn't order this!
Not our problem, called the supervisor, tugging on her cap.
We just followed instructions.
With a twirl of her hand, she walked away with her fellow movers, disappearing into the elevator. Your shoulders slumped as you turned to the hallway, finding all of the boxes laid neatly against the wall, the length of each piece ranging in different sizes. Still, staring at the delivery docket in hand, you grimaced as you read the contents of the boxes, finding that they were pieces, all from Aki, for a king-sized bed, including the mattress. You both agreed to get a queen, knowing that the dimensions may not be the best fit for the room. You sighed in exasperation, pinching the bridge of your nose while you recalled the conversation Midoriya and yourself had before making the purchase. You were concerned that due to Midoriya's rise in fame as a pro hero that the purchase would be upgraded without them knowing, and so tried to convince them that it was a double you were keen on. Midoriya, on the other hand, didn't think much of it, sweetly saying that he would never be that lucky for that to happen. Until he was pronounced the #1 pro hero in ranking a few days after that Aki visit. Staring at all the boxes in the hallway, you sighed as you began to pull and tug at the pieces towards the bedroom. It was your day off today from Sir Night Eye's agency, after participating in a few late-nighters, completing the paperwork that followed after a stint on your patrol. You were glad to be away from the desk, but seeing the delivery that came in today made you wonder if it was a lesser evil. After moving a few boxes into the bedroom, you felt your phone vibrate in your pocket, the tickle of it making you jump on the spot and almost dropping one of the heavier boxes onto your toes. Making sure that most things were intact and secured, you took a peek at your phone, smiling at the first few words you spotted in the preview screen before you opened your text messages.
Hey, cutie. Just got off from patrol and headed back to the agency. Wanna meet up for a coffee?
That was Midoriya's speech for lunch. Most likely something that would last a couple of hours before he joins you back home. You couldn't help but laugh inwardly, feeling your smile stretch further before you started typing back.
Sounds great! Maybe then you can help with assembling our new king-sized bed. I'm gonna need those muscles of yours to drag the larger pieces.
You waited for a while for a response, wondering if Midoriya was still preoccupied with work. You usually didn't receive a response after a while due to the responsibilities and the workload the #1 pro hero title came with. But
what? King-sized? Did they get the order wrong? I doubt it, Mr. #1. Oh, right. Well, we'll make it work. Still up for that coffee?
You chuckled under your breath. Midoriya had always been optimistic in every facet of the word. You replied back to him with an affirmative before you changed into something more appropriate than your jammies. After getting dressed, you stared at the half-transported amount of boxes still left in the hallway, sighing loudly at the sight of them and the mattress before you reached the front door. At the very least, on the upside, you both have something to sleep on other than the couch and the thin futon. Suddenly, your phone buzzed, expecting it to be Midoriya before you screened your call, picking it up immediately.
Awata?
We have an emergency. How soon can you get to the office?
It was all of a sudden. A moment of silence on your part before you shook your head from the barrage of words that blared through the speaker.
I can head down there now. What's going on?
We'll explain when you get here. Just hurry.
And then, silence. The dial tone ringing in your ear after Awata, that is, Bubble Girl, hung up on you. Confused by the sudden request, you immediately typed a text message to Midoriya, your heart sinking only a little when you sent it.
Sorry, I'm going to have to take a rain check on that coffee. Work called in. I'll let you know.
As soon as you arrived at Sir Night Eye's agency, you met Bubble Girl by the entrance, who immediately, without explanation, led you to the meeting room in a hurry. Despite the slightest relief that it wasn't paperwork related, you hoped she would have given some context on the situation before you stepped through the double doors. You were met with Centipede, standing by the large screens, discussing with a handful of local heroes who patrolled areas close by. Eyeing the screen while you approached him, you noticed that the image was of the largest bank in Musatafu. It wasn't a surprise that it would be the target of many petty crimes, but you noticed something different in the scene. Your eyes trained on something on the 5th floor of the bank. You soon realized it was a man, his arms raised above his head and his eyes filled with panic as he stood on the edge of the large window. A suicide attempt? Your eyes focused further into the footage, noticing something obscured behind the man, behind his head.
Gunpoint?
You whispered to yourself.
Correct,
Replied Centipede, his attention now focused on you as the local heroes took their leave from the meeting room.
It's a bank heist turned hostage situation. The robbers have demanded a free pass with the bank's assets.
And in return, the hostages are set free.
Continued Bubble Girl.
This scare tactic only occurred when police tried to storm the front doors.
This is a delicate situation.
Commented Centipede.
The police have been stalling on the demands as best as possible, but this is going to speed things up.
You turned to the screen again, noticing the gun still at the gentleman's head.
How long until they actually bring the robbers a solution? By my estimate, maybe the next half hour.
Suggested Bubble Girl.
That is, if they can meet those demands.
This is going outside of your jurisdiction with the police. You're going in as your pro-hero status.
Warned Centipede, while he pulled up the schematics of the bank on screen.
Information from the local heroes network suggests that the hostages are being held in the large foyer. It's a 5-man crew running the shots at the moment. We've yet to receive any information on them, quirk or otherwise, so unfortunately you'll be going in blind.
It's assumed they're quirkless due to their use of firearms, but you can't be too sure.
Added Bubble Girl.
Right. Like me.
You pointed out, receiving a nod from Bubble Girl in kind.
Are we the only ones dealing with this?
There's been a call out to any available heroes, so you'll be able to meet who can help when you get there.
Answered Centipede.
Strap up and head out. You're going to need all the luck you can get.
You nodded with an affirmative before you ran out of the meeting room, heading towards your pro-hero locker along the way. You quickly dressed into your outfit, grabbing all the munitions you needed, along with 3 of your trusted pieces of equipment, eyeing the firearms laid neatly in your locker. 2 magnums and a sniper rifle. You only hoped you didn't need to use them. The red and blue lights flickered in the daylight while police officers ducked under cover behind their cars, guns at the ready. Still on the 5th floor, the man stood precariously over the edge of the large window, whimpering with tears streaming from his eyes. You could see it clear as day through the scope of your sniper rifle, situated on the adjacent building of the intersection. You surveyed the area, counting the number of police officers at the scene, the barricades for civilians, and any movement through the windows of the bank. The scope helped immensely in keeping tabs with the situation, but after speaking to the head constable over the phone, you thought it best to ready yourself, climbing to one of the rooftops with a clear view of the scene instead of approaching the barricades below.
Snipe wasn't on call,
spoke the constable on your mic while you continued to survey.
You're our next available pair of eyes.
Figured.
You murmured while you kept your eye on the gentleman by the window.
I think I heard he was off duty for a while.
Yeah, well, it's not looking great down here. I've lost 2 of our men as casualties. We can't afford to make one more wrong move.
You could see the sweat on the poor man's brow while he whimpered, teetering on the edge with his arms raised in the air. One wrong move, and he would definitely fall. From behind, the barrel of a small gun was now aimed at his back, the culprit's hand in view, but not his face. You could take a shot and disarm him, but the risk of scaring the hostage would result in catastrophic repercussions. You felt your breath slow. Inhale. Exhale. The crowd roared from the barricades, catching your attention, but not removing you from the hostage. It sounded joyous, almost inspiring. Did another pro hero enter the scene?
Sir, what's happening?
You spoke over the mic, tempted to quickly whip your scope into the crowd for a look. There was no reply. You grimaced before you maneuvered your sniper rifle, eyeing parts of the crowd before a flash of green caught your eye. You quickly followed it, spotting the back of a familiar mop of hair. If it wasn't his hair, his bulk would have been the dead giveaway you needed. Your eyes widened while you stared through the scope, watching Deku approach the head constable on the scene, conversing with him. Your heartbeat quickened inside your chest. To think, out of all the pros that were available on the scene, Midoriya decided to take the call. You wouldn't have thought anything less, while a soft smile crossed your lips. Through your scope, you spotted Midoriya looking around before his eyes landed on yours. All he did was smile, before you chuckled under your breath.
Well, he knows I'm here now.
You murmured, watching Midoriya slip an earpiece on.
I can hear you loud and clear.
Watching Midoriya's mouth speak along with the words in your ear made you choke, clutching onto your rifle from the closeness of his voice. After a few years working together on the field, whether you were under police jurisdiction or on your own accord as a pro hero, Midoriya had come to learn how you thought on the scene. Now it was never a dull moment, when he would immediately spot you and smile up at you through the scope. It warmed your cheeks, especially now that the both of you had officially decided to move in together. Then the thought of the king-size bed came to mind. You sighed, knowing that you'll be returning to that conundrum after all of this was said and done, along with the paperwork trail to follow. Suddenly you watched as Midoriya, at least Deku, strode up to the entrance of the bank. You watched his stance, standing tall and confident, different to what his usual self was until he disappeared into the bank's doors. You hated being blind.
I'm here for the negotiations,
You heard in your ear, moving your scope back onto the hostage.
What are your demands? What? Shut it. So, they sent the newly appointed #1 hero, huh? Well, Mr. Big Shot, we want a getaway van, and we're taking what we've earned. For a group of 4, you've done enough damage. All of you with firearms, hostages behind the counters. I think you haven't thought this through.
Thank goodness for Midoriya's quick thinking. He had painted a vague picture of the scene, but enough for you to go by. At the very least, the hostage by the window was your only concern. Wait a minute. Weren't you informed there were 5 men in this crew?
Are you going to help us or not? We get a van around the back, or that guy is the first to go.
The push of the small barrel against the hostage's back signaled the threat while you observed from your scope. From below, you noticed a group of police officers congregating with a safety air cushion on standby, still deflated. You knew the sound of them pumping it would alert somebody on the scene, watching as they slowly inflated it as quietly as possible. So, this was a distraction tactic. But you also knew well that in a pinch you had a quick exit strategy from the rooftop to get up and close as soon as you were able. Your magnums were still in their holsters.
Whoa, okay. Easy there, buddy.
Reassured Midoriya over your earpiece.
All I want is what's best for everyone.
They've started inflating.
You commented on your mic.
Ask them about their 5th member.
There was a moment of silence while you watched the safety cushion's progress. It was at least a quarter full.
Where's the 5th guy?
Asked Midoriya in your ear.
That coward? They left us here. Still, you either help us, #1, or he gets it.
You watched the gun push against the back of the gentleman again, his face contorting with sniveling fear.
Cushion looks halfway done.
You spoke, your finger on the trigger.
I have a clear shot on the hand.
You watched through the scope, swapping between watching the cushion's progress and the gunman at the ready.
How about this?
Started Midoriya.
We'll look out for you. Get you that van. You let these people go. And we'll look into your 5th guy.
You slowly exhaled while it intermingled with a sigh. Well, if there was any way to stall them further, betrayal may be one way of doing it. You bit your lip, holding your sight on the hand that held the gun at point-blank range.
How do we know we can trust you? I'm thinking the same question. Let him go. We can talk.
You could hear your breath, holding onto your sights. The cushion was almost done, while you watched the officers below signaling the hostage above. Your sights landed on the gunman's hand, the crosshairs hovering over the trigger finger.
Cushion's done.
You informed, ready in position.
You think we're that stupid? You heroes make too many promises that you can't keep. We can take you out here, and now...
The gunman's hand recoiled in pain before you watched the hostage fall from the window, landing safely, if not haphazardly, into the safety cushion below. Suddenly, the spray of bullets echoed from inside the bank, while the onlookers gasped and cried in panic. You immediately took to the drain pipe, sliding down as quickly as you could before you ran towards the bank, gliding over the vehicles that shielded the officers. In your rush towards the doors, you swung them open, barrel rolling onto the floor and pulling out both your magnums mid-roll before the effects of your quirk activated. Your sight magnified while your eyes darted around, taking aim. Each shot had to count. With only 2, one from each gun, you disarmed 2 assailants, one by the door, the other by the second floor patio, taking out their trigger hand with perfect precision. Quickly, you took aim at the furthest target on the patio, grabbing the barrel of one of your magnums and throwing it, its stock smashing into his forehead and knocking him out cold. Your reflexes immediately aimed your remaining magnum at the thug by the door, the man holding their hands up in the air in surrender. You slowly approached him, watching a weak, nervous smile appear on his face. All you did was smile back, before hitting the stock of your gun into his head, knocking him unconscious. In all of that rush of adrenaline, you turned to find Midoriya subdue whom you assumed was the mastermind of the operation. A large, brutish man pinned down by the current #1 hero, Deku. Sparks of green energy flickered around the foyer before Midoriya rendered the man unconscious.
What was that? 25%?
You asked, receiving a warm smile from Midoriya.
You're close,
He replied, his body still alight with the energy surging through it.
You didn't need to be here.
You know I hate going dark. I can't help if I can't see.
A low, playful chuckle softly escaped Midoriya's lips before his eyes immediately widened in shock. His quirk magnified as soon as he rushed towards you, grabbing you in his arms before a shower of bullets pelted into his back. The warmth of his body and the heat of his quirk licked against your skin, while the bullets continued to shower, the sound of them clinking on the pristine tiled floor echoing below you. Then, silence. The gunman you had shot from the window breathed deeply while he limply held onto the smoking automatic rifle in his hands. His eyes widened in fear, seeing the back of Deku bare, his costume shredded from the bullets, but not a scratch on his skin. His energy flickered violently around him before he turned his gaze towards the man, his green pupils jagged and malicious, glowing angrily at him. The thug was overwhelmed with fear, staring into the eyes of the #1 hero before an inanimate object flew towards him, hitting him square in the forehead. Midoriya's stare broke, his eyes blinking out of the intense glare he held to watch the thug fall on his back, knocked out cold by one of your magnums. He turned to you in his arms, your arm outstretched after relinquishing your second firearm for the task.
Thanks.
You quietly spoke, smiling up at Midoriya.
You doing okay at 50?
Immediately, Midoriya realized the amount of energy surging through his body, his hair standing on end. A wry smile perked on his lips before he allowed the energy to dissipate, his usual mop of hair floating back to its usual curly self. That smile turned into a grin, and you could only return it before the flock of police officers stormed the bank, apprehending all of the thugs and taking care of the hostages. After the thank yous from officers and hostages alike, Midoriya and yourself made your way to the ambulances outside of the bank for some final checkups before being released. Surprisingly, aside from the scars that littered his body, Midoriya suffered no injuries, as well as yourself. Lucky.
I'm not looking forward to the paperwork that's going to follow after this,
You commented.
You and me both.
Agreed Midoriya before he laid his hand atop your head.
I'm just glad that you're okay.
All right, #1 hero.
You cooed while you playfully grazed your fist against his jaw.
I say we go for that coffee now.
Agreed.
And then we tackle the problem back home.
Midoriya stared at you perplexed for a moment before his eyes widened in embarrassment, rubbing the back of his neck in response to his realization. The corners of your lips curled upwards at his reaction before you laid your head onto his chest, taking the opportunity for some calm before the official release from paramedics. Midoriya smiled and hummed before he held you close, with a momentary lapse of optimism laced in his voice.
We'll make it work.